You know, weaving is one of those crafts that's been around for thousands of years. It feels ancient, something we perfected a long, long time ago. But what happens when you take that ancient art and you slam it together with cutting-edge artificial intelligence? Well, we're about to find out how algorithms are making a process we thought we'd mastered even better. I mean, think about it. You've got a favorite t-shirt, right? Or maybe some really soft bed sheets. What makes them feel so good? The durability, the way they look? It all boils down to the quality of the fabric itself. So what's the secret sauce that separates the great stuff from everything else? For the companies that actually make our clothes and fabrics, these little tiny flaws are a massive, massive headache. They create waste, they get products rejected, and they cost a ton of money. It's this constant, microscopic battle for perfection. But here's the twist. It turns out that a lot of these frustrating little defects aren't caused by a mistake you can see. Nope, they're caused by an invisible force, right at the very heart of the weaving process. A force that, up until now, has been almost impossible to get exactly right.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to find that flaw in the fabric. Then we'll walk the tension tightrope that weavers deal with every day. We'll see how researchers built a digital twin of a weaving machine, and then watch as algorithms find the perfect answer. After that, we'll see if it actually worked in the real world. And finally, we'll take a peek at the future of weaving.
All right, let's kick things off with the problem itself. What makes producing totally flawless fabric so darn difficult? I mean, just imagine you're running a textile mill. Every single time a machine stops because a thread broke, that's lost time. Every time a whole roll of fabric gets downgraded because of some little imperfection, that's lost money. The number one goal is to make those problems happen as little as possible. But believe me, that is much easier said than done. And that brings us right back to that invisible force I was talking about. This is the real heart of the issue. The one thing that weavers are constantly trying to get just right is something called warp tension. Okay, so what is that? Well, the warp yarns are basically the backbone of the fabric. They're the threads that are stretched super tight on the loom from end to end. And the amount of pull or tension on those threads is absolutely critical. It can't be too much, can't be too little. It has to be perfect. And this is exactly why we're calling it a tightrope. If you make the tension too high, the yarns just snap, pop, the machine stops. But if the tension is too low, they can get all loose and tangled up, which, you guessed it, also makes them break. It can even cause something called an unclean shed, which is basically when the opening for the cross thread doesn't form right, and the whole operation just grinds to a halt. Okay, so we've established that perfect tension is the key to everything. But how on earth do you find the perfect settings on this gigantic, complicated, super fast machine without just doing endless, expensive, and wasteful experiments? Well, you build a copy of it in a computer. A team of researchers at RWTH University in Germany had this brilliant idea. First, they studied every single moving part of a weaving machine and figured out the physics behind it. Then, they translated all that physics into a bunch of complex math formulas. They used that math to build a computer simulation, a digital twin, that could predict the warp tension with incredible accuracy. And here's the most important part. They tested it against a real machine to make sure their digital model was spot on.
So now they have this perfect digital playground, a loom they can run 1,000,000 times without wasting a single thread. Now it was time to unleash a couple of powerful algorithms to hunt for the absolute best settings.
They tried two different approaches. The first one, a genetic algorithm, is really cool. It works kind of like evolution. It tries a bunch of random solutions, keeps the best ones, and then breeds them together to make even better solutions over many generations. It's amazing at finding the very best answer, but it can be slow. The second method, a gradient-based one, is more direct. It's like putting a marble at the top of a bowl. It just uses calculus to quickly find the fastest way to the bottom, or in this case, the optimal solution. It's incredibly fast. So how slow is slow? Well, the genetic algorithm, with its whole evolution-style process, took 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes to find the best settings. Now, that's really not bad at all in the grand scheme of things, but just wait until you see the other one. The gradient-based method found pretty much the exact same ideal settings in less than 10 seconds. Let that sink in. Less than 10 seconds versus 5 minutes. That is just a staggering difference in speed, and it shows you how powerful the right approach can be for this kind of problem. Okay, so this is all super impressive inside a computer, but it doesn't mean a thing if it doesn't actually work on a real factory floor. This is the moment of truth. The researchers took their new algorithm-approved settings and programmed them into a real physical weaving machine.
And the results from the sensors on the machine? They were crystal clear. The average warp tension dropped in a big way, from over 132 centinewtons down to about 106. The algorithm had successfully found a way to make the whole process run smoother and with way less stress on the yarns.
And the bottom line, the real payoff? Those annoying fabric defects that kept showing up at the old settings, they were gone. Completely. Vanished. By fine-tuning that one invisible force, they made the visible flaws disappear. It was 100% success. Now, this one incredible study is really just a piece of a much, much bigger story. AI and data are being used in factories all over the world, and they are completely changing the textile industry from the inside out.
And this isn't science fiction, it's happening right now. Companies like Smartex are putting AI-powered cameras right onto the weaving machines. For example, at the Clothius factory, their system spots defects as they happen and even tells you what kind they are. Look at this data. It found that 87% of defects were caused by a needle or sinker issue. That lets the operators fix the exact problem instantly. And this technology does more than just catch mistakes. Listen to what Vitor Barroso, a knitting manager who uses this system, had to say. He said it not only reduced defects, but also increased production because it gives his workers more freedom. See, it's not about replacing people, it's about giving them superpowers. All right, so let's boil it all down. First, we learned that warp tension is a huge, huge deal in weaving, but it's super hard to control. Second, creating a digital twin in a computer is a genius way to test new ideas without any risk. Third, optimization algorithms can find the perfect settings way faster than any human ever could. And all of that leads to what really matters: higher quality fabric, a lot less waste, and getting more done. It really makes you think, doesn't it? We've just seen how we took one of humanity's oldest, most fundamental crafts and made it provably better using modern data science. So if we can be this for weaving, what other ancient art, what other traditional industry is just waiting for its own algorithmic revolution?